Agent Cal Carter was an agent who worked for the Time Enforcement Agency, whose job it was to monitor and protect the timeline, as well as prevent any crimes against time from being committed. If any time crimes were committed, they were sent back to where and when the crime was being committed, usually in groups of 4 or 5 to hunt down and arrest the suspects, which in some cases were local to the time period. The year was 3458 and the Time Enforcement Agency was located in the basement underneath a long-abandoned building, as their work was so dangerous it had to be kept secret from the public because of their use of time machines, vehicles or handheld to do their job. Carter was one of the senior agents and was trusted to carry out solo missions if he so chose, but he wisely chose to take a fellow agent with him. He also wore a golden watch on his wrist which took the travelers back in time by pressing the reverse button and forwards by pressing the fast forward button. He had just received his latest mission, which was to go back to the year 2024 to chase down and apprehend the criminal known as Babyface, who was causing havoc by stealing from hardware shops and killing people with the stolen hardware. He chose agents Hannah Hawley and Daniel Goddard as his teammates, grouped with them. They all had the time watches. They all set their watches to take them back to 2024 and pressed the activate buttons in perfect synchronization, causing their personal time to rewind. They arrived in a busy city with cars zooming by and people bustling around. They checked their watches, which told them they'd arrived in the year 2024. As they started looking for their Babyface, they learned they were in London, and now they needed to hide their identities, so they adopted the personas of normal police agents who were hunting down an ordinary criminal. Babyface, a 36-year-old man whose face resembled that of a baby, was busy robbing a bank with a crowbar he'd stolen from a hardware store. His face was hidden by a mask so nobody could see it, and he managed to steal over £800,000 and flee into the back street to get away. Unfortunately, some youths had found his time machine and were trying to steal it. He pushed them away, threatening them to stay away from his getaway car, climbed in and tried to start it, but was thwarted by Agent Goddard, who disabled the time machine and sent it back to the future before grabbing Babyface and handcuffing him. The youths left, and Agents Carter and Hawley arrived at the scene. They placed him under arrest for theft of a special vehicle and abusing the timeline for his own personal gain, as well as theft of deadly weapons and use of said weapons with intent to kill. As they led him away, they removed his mask to expose him to the crowd. The crowd laughed at him because of his baby-faced appearance. The agents led him to a field just outside the city, set their watches to return them to their base in the 35th century, and 2 of them set off with their suspect, whilst Carter was left behind because his watch had decided to malfunction. So he took it off and tried to fix it while walking back into the city, which was surprisingly empty. He was surprised by this, as moments before there were lots of people around. Just as he managed to fix the watch and was about to strap it to his wrist, he was retrieved by the agency, causing him to drop it in a grass embankment on a pavement. Just as he arrived back in the base, he noticed he no longer had his watch, as a result of not having time to get it back on his wrist before they retrieved him. As he'd completed his mission, his commissioner gave him a pass from losing his watch, in the hopes of someone finding it. He was glad Carter and his team had caught and arrested Babyface and was safe home in 3458 before anything was found out.